and if you so choose, also see us. Welcome to this webinar that's been organised by IEMA and MarRI-UK on the subject of new technologies and talent alignment. Are we moving together? An opportunity really for and both industrial and academic perspectives on that question. My name is Richard Westgarth. I'm the strategic advisor to MarRI-UK, and I'm going to be your chair for this event. A few housekeeping rules. The webinar will be recorded and it'll be made available on the MarRI-UK website after the event. We are only going to take questions on the Q&A button that you should have at the top of your screen. Wenjuan Wang from MarRI-UK is going to be monitoring that. And the idea is that we will take all the questions together towards the end of the presentations or the discussions rather than interrupt the flow of the discussion. And obviously we'd all be grateful if you could make sure you're on mute. I think that's something that Wenjuan's already managed to set up. So making a start, we're living in an age of rapid technological transformations with a wide range of new and emerging technologies, automation, AI, electrification, new materials, enabled by technologies such as digitalization, hybrid systems. And we also have a background of increasing uncertainty in geopolitics. And you've only got to look at the news in the last few weeks to see that. So our aim today is to look at how these transformations and address the alignment between industry and academia that will be critical in developing our future workforce. With me today is a panel of two from industry, two from academia to discuss this. Firstly, Marco Ottiker, who's the COO of EPT Technology, a specialist in high-level systems design, battery architecture, and delivery of large-scale marine power solutions. Dr. Alexander Oswald, Senior Vice President at Torqeedo, leading the development of innovative low and high voltage electric and hybrid drive systems for marine applications. I have Dr. Rose Norman, a reader in marine electrical systems at Newcastle University. Her research focuses on the intersection of electrical engineering and maritime sustainability. And Professor Gerasimos Theotokos, or Makos to make my life easier, the DMV Professor of Safety Marine Systems at University of Strathclyde, and his research focuses on holistic interplay between safety, energy and sustainability in complex marine environments. So throughout this, we're going to be looking at how they see situation today, looking from both industry and academic perspectives. And we'll be giving them a few minutes to put forward their views, and then moving on to a wider roundtable discussion on alignment, before looking at how they see things evolving over the next 5 to 10 years, if you like, the future workforce. We'll then take the Q&A from the audience. So let's make a start. I'm going to start really by asking for industry perspective. So perhaps Alex, you can go first. What do you see as the most urgent hiring needs you have today? And what are harder skills you have to find?
Thank you, Richard. From our perspective, as we are drivetrain integrators, we are looking closely what as well automotive industry is doing, and a big focus as well on our side is going into system design. That means being competitive, especially with great products coming from China. We need to go a step further. We need to provide platforms. That means our new engineers or future engineers need to understand what the customers need platform-wise, how we can use integrated drivetrains, for example, or batteries most integrated into a platform controlling energy. So that means we need as well skills in software, real-time software architects that are able to provide software that is maintainable. And on the other side, we need product and program managers that understand the needs of the customers, allowing us to design our products fitting into the needs of a ship or a boat. Let's compare that with a bicycle. A bicycle is adding an electric drivetrain to allow me to go further or steeper, and the same must be for the ship in the end. And that's what we're looking for. People looking beyond the table, designing the system for the next big thing in the end.
Thank you, Marco. Similar for you, or do you see it slightly differently? Sorry, you're on mute, Marco.
Here we go. Sorry about that. No, I use a few words less. Very well said, Alexander. Thank you. For us, key is that we find people that have the big picture. So we don't need a super expert in a programming language to one dot. We need people that understand how system works together. And that is actually quite difficult to find. And in the end of the day, they should not only be engineers, they should also understand boats. So they should understand the whole mechanism they are working in or world they're working in. And of course, also the customer needs. And on top of that, be able to design systems that are cost effective so people can also pay for it, so that we see more electrification in the future. So not the most experts to the detail, but people that keep the overview, and that's quite difficult to find. We realize, yeah.
Thank you. What's your view of, is there a mismatch between the graduates that arrive at your organizations and what you actually need? Do you have to spend a lot of time training them or adapting them, or what's the biggest challenge there?
So if we go into that field, the biggest challenge, we are making some very big, large systems for super yachts. And there we need commission engineers, and they are sometimes alone on this boat, even on big systems. And they really have a good understanding of almost everything that is put into these boats from our side. Now, we do find some very good talented people, but it's difficult. We source worldwide. We do really not care about nationality and where they come from. We had some candidates from Germany where they even have master degrees, and they had very detailed knowledge about a specific subject they did in their school. But as soon as they were placed outside, they were not flexible in their mind. So as such to speak, we are not so super happy with highly talented people in just one field. We really want the people to keep the overview. Yeah.
Yeah, and Alex, is that the same for you?
Now the mic was off, correct? Yep. Sorry. I would like to add something to that, because what Marcus said is absolutely right. That the look into the structured systematic work is one topic. Another topic we see what universities cannot or maybe can, but do not focus on is the compliance issue, that people know exactly what is the limitations and what is the compliance we need to design for. And another topic is design to costs. This is something, especially when it comes to mass market, and we are doing very small drives which are ready for mass market. There we need to look into tooling, readiness for robustness, but keep the eye on costs. And this is something you can learn best by doing, I think. But maybe there's something where we can give the engineers an idea already in university how to focus on that.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move on to get the academic perspective on this. So, Rose and Marcos, if you've how are your universities adapting to this rapid technological change and understanding of industry needs? You know, if you get, I guess, new grads come in, undergrads come in, how are you looking at the courses and the way you prepare them for industry? Perhaps Rose, you could go first.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I mean, we are obviously linked with industry, so we have a lot of industry involvement within the programs to try to keep that direct focus and relevance. So we have industrial involvement in courseworks and to some extent assessment of students. But the programs themselves are always to an extent evolving. So the structure of programs and the specific content that we're delivering, and that can be around the sort of design focus and the links between the sort of naval architecture, marine engineering, electrical systems aspects of the program, but also things like decarbonisation and the drive for the industry as a whole to move towards more digitalisation, more sensor systems, more data analysis. So developing skills with students, not as Marco said, we're not necessarily looking to deliver people with a specific programming language or a specific piece of software that they're super expert in, but an understanding of the systems and the processes.
Okay, thank you. Marcos, how about your
just to complement what Rose said. First of all, we need to acknowledge the multidisciplinarity of our area. And also we need to acknowledge that at least in the UK we have different programs. We have, of course, undergraduate, and also within undergraduate we have bachelor programs with which in Scotland last 4 years, and then we have the men's programs, and then we have MSc programs, Master of Science, and then postgraduate research programs like MPhil and PhD. So we need to see the whole ecosystem of offerings in the universities. And of course, what Marco and Alex said, these are new technologies, new areas must be actually introduced into the teaching. But of course, we, as a university, we recognize the different needs of our students, different needs of different students types. I will give you some examples because what Rose mentioned, industrial involvement and specialized bespoke design projects on new technologies, and also group projects with multidisciplinary areas and several group members actually representing sort of realistic project that the students will do in industry. These are initiatives the universities have performed and our department have performed. But specifically now, I will give you some examples. So in our university, we recognize the need for introducing autonomy technologies more than 6-7 years ago. And seeing the need or identifying the need in the UK and worldwide, we introduced a new MSc specialized on autonomous marine vehicles. And then we introduced for autonomy courses and modules like digital twins, autonomous marine vehicles design, and cybersecurity. So although we are a department of maritime transport an ocean engineer technology, more specifically naval architecture and marine engineering is the naval architecture, ocean marine engineering is the formal title, but we extend our offerings and we include new technologies. I think this is for start. I think we have some other topics to cover as well.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to open it up really. Ask a sort of perhaps a leading question here. It stems from what Alex said. Looking at other industries, how much are we doing? Are we looking broadly enough for the skills, or are we a little bit too focused on the maritime area and looking, particularly from an academic course, specialist marine engineering courses and things? But should we be looking more at what aerospace are doing, what automotive are doing, or even out into what the construction industry are doing? I'll open it up. Somebody likes to. No.
So, okay. So, again, I will continue with my first point that our area is multidisciplinary. Of course, through several projects, research projects, we actually investigate what other industries are doing, and we adapt approaches and methods and even tools sometimes to our industry. But in all these cases, we need customization or so-called marinization. So in that case, yeah, we have done this. In the master programs or in undergraduate master programs, we look at the industry, we look at the needs. We have industrial advisory boards. We consult our experts, our industrial experts, and yeah, we evolve our programs.
Okay. Marco or Alex, is there anything you'd like to pick up on there about looking at other industries?
I mean, of course, there is occasions where we need one specialist for one thing only, yeah. And these people have very special talents or very special education, and then we hire somebody like that. If we do so, it's utmost importance that he is able to work in a team. Of course, this sounds very used word because everybody since 50 years wants to work in teams, but it's then especially important because really, if we just hire a specialist in one field, he needs to be able to understand still the big picture. What is he working in and what is he working around about. Other than that, I really only can come back to we do need people with a broad picture of what it is, and not the pre-educated super specialist. Normally, when it comes to, we can say, frequency drive trains that we use on these boats, anyhow, if he has a good understanding about how power electronic works, that is good enough, because he will then join our company, which is using one type of frequency drives, or he will join Torqeedo, which is most probably using another type of frequency drives, or I do know that they use another type, but then he will need at least half a year to a year within whatever company he joins to learn what they are actually using in equipment, and we are actually not even a big fan if he knows too much about it, because we want to teach the people the way they should do it in our company, at least. Yeah.
Maybe I may add something. It might depend a little bit if you see yourself in the industry more as a system integrator or a system application, or if you want to develop a real product, and maybe that might have a different need for an engineer. So we are serving two fields. We are serving the field of being a system integrator, where we, like Marco says, delivering components and doing a system around, where we need the people with the big view, and when we are looking into maybe outboard market or just drivetrains, then we might have a look into what truck industries or similar is doing, where it comes more to something like an FMEA or risk analysis, where we can as well learn of methodology they are doing. We need to apply, and I cannot say that's left or right is correct, but we should have a far look what close industries, example, the truck industry is doing, and we can learn a lot of them. Integrated drives, or we look into the bike industries, what they are doing, very small drives, very small batteries, high efficient, maybe something needs to be fire safe. So it can be that we need a specialist for a special topic, and this then needs to be the specialist, but always have to look on the customer need, and for that purpose, my engineers need to love the market and need to love the product, and they need to use it. So they need to live with the product and to understand how the customer or what is the underlying problem of the customer to have a measure for that.
Okay, thank you. Rose, I'm going to ask you a slightly different question. How do you work across the different engineering disciplines within Newcastle?
That is a good question. We so our marine technology group sits within a wider school of engineering. So we were restructured a few years ago. So we have a school of engineering which covers civil, mechanical, marine, electrical, chemical, aerospace. So that internal structure gives us great flexibility, and we have teaching across different disciplines. So specific electrical drives modules might come from the electrical engineering section within the wider school. But yeah, we encourage, certainly from a research perspective, we have that wide sort of spread of research interest. So if it's, for example, fuel cells, we have colleagues in chemical engineering who are working on fuel cells. We have colleagues in electrical who are working on the application. Similarly with batteries, battery technology, and within marine, we might be using them within the specific marine environment, but we can call on experts in other aspects of the technology relatively simply within the wider school.
Okay, thank you. If we sort of start to think about the rate of change of technology now, and we start looking ahead, Marcos mentioned that, a 4-year degree, there's a lot of technology change in 4 years. How do you think we can better work together as academia and industry to prepare sort of graduates or beyond to enter the world of industry and maintain this technological awareness as they go through their courses? I'm old enough to remember AI in the 1980s, and it went nowhere fast. But now it's come back, and there are cycles here that I think we could look back on usefully and learn from. But equally, I'd be interested to know, how can we create perhaps a more adaptive program that, working alongside our industry partners, we can develop the graduates as the technologies develop? Just a passing thought, but you might want to comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, if I start with that, I think if you take undergraduate programs, for example, the undergraduate students, you're giving a rounded education with soft skills, group working, all that sort of thing, and the fundamentals of engineering systems, engineering technologies. I think working with industry advisory boards to look at how programs need to evolve is sort of perfect in terms of the wider teaching, but for the individual, placements and internships are invaluable, I think, for the students. So industry offering placement opportunities to students is key to them developing those more specific skills. That can be a couple of months in a summer, or it can be a year placement. I think is
that sounds to me like what I would have called the old-fashioned sandwich course. Maybe I'm too old, I don't know. Marcos, what's your view? Would that work for Strathclyde, getting more
just
placements?
To complement what Rose says, I think we need to highlight emphasize the academic program in UK universities. So for undergraduate students, the program starts September and finishes mid-May, which means that most of our students take or exploit the summer break for internships and industrial placements, which this is part of let's say of the curriculum. Is not of course recognized, but we know that most of our students will use the summer break for placements in companies. This is a combination of the academic curriculum learning and also the learning from industry. Now, the collaboration with the industry is important. We have used extensively but we give the programs, at least our program gives the flexibility to the students to also self-learn. For example, I can mention that we have we use new technologies for example, virtual reality lab. So the students use this technology or use these labs to get familiar with new technologies or new operations. We have several examples, so even in student projects or group projects with new fuels, alternative fuels, zero carbon fuels, operations of very, very demanding operations of ships. Another example is the Marine Robotics Society, again, established by students and it's not only PhD students, it's all the student types, all the student categories, and PhD and masters and undergraduate. And these initiatives gives the students the skills to integrate, to design, to tackle designs that quite integrated and hardware and software and building actually to increase their hand skills on making a system, seeing the real system and testing a system. So all these are initiatives. At least in our university, we do it. Now, what Rose mentioned, in our case, we don't follow this structure. We follow the traditional university structure, but some modules are covered from other departments. For example, we have sustainability MScs, and several of the modules are covered from electrical engineering, design, manufacturing, engineering, management, so other engineering, even chemical engineering, other engineering departments. So this is how we actually use or provide multidisciplinary skills to our programs to our students.
Marco, Alex, how do you see this future evolving, and how do you think industry can help academia produce the sort of graduates of the future that you're going to be looking for? Open-ended question. I'll let you have a
you
bash
can
at
start,
it.
Alexander.
Okay, thank you. I fully share the thoughts as well of Marcus. I like the approach of virtual reality lab, which allows to get familiar on a theoretical basis, maybe as well in discussions. On the other hand, what we see, especially in Germany, we have academic thesis periods normally where students at the first time approach the company. And then the target is to produce an outcome that is academic. And what could help is to integrate, instead of that focus into the special outcome, to integrate a more practical half a year or 1 year in industry. So maybe we find solution how to combine studying and practical work in industries where we find concrete themes where we can work on together with a practical output that helps as well the student, that helps the company to overcome any certain issue. And in the end, both can learn of each other, especially the students can learn how industry thinks and works. Marco, okay, please add something if you need to.
Yeah, I have something. I know you're more UK related, but let's have this open view. I mean, we have an office in Germany and also in Denmark, so we see this is done slightly different there. Especially in the Danish branch, we have constantly 3 to 4 students from automation, mechanics, software, everything, and they are constantly in our house. I think it's about 10 hours per week that they work from day one when they start to study. They get some pocket money for this, which is good for them as well. And we can see what they do. They can see what we do. Sometimes they have to do stupid work. Sometimes they have to do interesting work. And after every year they have a project they do, and they can come back and they have a close contact to all the engineers. They see the problems we have every day, and they say, hey, I could make that one of my projects for this summer. And then we go, okay, that's very good. And that would maybe even help us if it turns out well. And I found that a very good approach. Because the other thing is, of course, also good. But if we get a student that comes from external and says, okay, I have 3 months time, I would like to do a practice with you. Now we need to create together a project for him that our company can benefit and that he can benefit. And for us as a rather small company, we are only around 50, 60 people. We, of course, then need to go, oh, and hang on, we also need to allocate an engineer for that can help the student, which sometimes is a problem. So if they are constantly following with us, we go like, hey, we know this guy, he's good. Let's give him something more. And then he's coming back and says, hey guys, I see you have those kind of problems. I could make a project out of this in university. And I find this super. And I know in Denmark this works really well for us. The university there is also just next to us. So that's a very good approach where we go very close with the university hand in hand. But there might be other good ways, of course. I'm just telling you what I experience one hand that works well, not claiming that I know all the good projects that are out there in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested. You mentioned the overhead actually of having students working in the companies and finding people to supervise them. That's obviously an issue for the smaller companies. I just wondered if there's something more that the universities could do there by providing more experienced supervision to help small companies in particular. Is that something, Marcos or Rose, you'd be willing to do?
Yeah, possibly I can mention also some examples. Again, in the UK, speaking about the UK, possibly you have heard this KTP Knowledge Transfer Partnership projects, which actually a project collaboration between a company and a university, and the person is employed by the university but works in the company. So these are examples to really enhance the synergies between universities and the industry and companies, and also the knowledge transfer. And of course, in this case, we have both academic supervisors, but also industrial supervisors. I need also to mention our industrial PhDs program, where the student, because we have seen that there is a huge gap in skills in the industry, and a way to bridge this gap is to have more PhD graduates. And a way, what we have done, at least at Strathclyde, is that we have programs called industrial PhD, and the PhD student is an employee of a company, and they are doing also their PhDs at the same time. I need also to mention the centers of doctoral training, which actually are PhD mostly programs, but also industrial PhD programs that can create 40, 50 graduates in 3 to 5 years time, and it's collaboration between several universities, but also industry. So I understand that mostly these programs or these initiatives do not address the undergraduate students' needs, but the ecosystem is not only the undergraduate program. The ecosystems include all the projects. So at least in the UK, we have the tools, and at Strathclyde we have several initiatives that closer collaboration between industry and academia. Another example, and based on our expertise or our experiences, bespoke CPDs, continual professional development. Some companies approach us and they want specific training for their employees. So we develop CPD programs and we deliver to the employees, and of course we can then extend that to students and also to all the interested personnel. So these are initiatives. Of course, I'm not saying that everything is perfect, and we can certainly collaborate further with the industry. We do it already up to an extent. I need also to mention our centers. For example, at Strathclyde, we have Power Network Center, we have a National Manufacturing Institute of Scotland. So there are big centers and several other centers that certainly contribute towards the closer collaboration between industry and academia. So these are initiatives, and we need to possibly see or develop some more specific or specialized initiatives in the future.
Okay, I'm going to make a little bit of a plug here for MarRI-UK. Of course, MarRI-UK, with its industrial academic links, has used industry to sponsor specific projects within the academic communities to meet industry needs. And I think perhaps we could look at that as one example of how industrial problems could be addressed by direct sponsorship, really, from industry. I think that's something that maybe Wen-Joanne or from MarRI-UK could talk more about. If anybody's interested in that, I suggest you get in touch with her, and I think you can find all the projects on the MarRI-UK website. I'm conscious that time is moving on. There's a few chats coming in on the meeting. I don't know if we've got any questions yet. Oh, no.
Richard, we have one. Phil put a question in the chat. So
right, okay. Could you just point me at it, because I've got a lot of the chat here.
I will put this in the Q&A session.
Thanks. So I think that there's a number of the audience here have mentioned that they are working closely with universities. I think LJMU have come back and saying they've worked with that. And they actually pay the interns time and employ them through Unitemps. I don't know what Unitemps is, but that works for postgrad students and MSCs. So I think there are examples out there. I think perhaps we're not being as consistent as we could be in how we do that. And maybe that's something, again, that MarRI-UK could help with, because I think, it's obviously very difficult to work across the breadth of the academic community and the industrial communities to see what the best practice is, but there's something we could do there. I'm also conscious that, and this is me being old, apologies for that, but the thick sandwich course where you did 2 years academic, a year in industry, and then a final year, worked very well for a lot of engineers in the 70s and 80s, because it gave them that practical grounding in the middle, and also meant that essentially they had a year-long interview with the companies. And I'm not sure if that sort of scheme is still available, or whether it's now down to shorter placements. And I know there's all sorts of pressures on both industry from the overhead cost of that, but also from academia for, again, cost reasons and everything else. But that's something that I think still happens, but perhaps for shorter placements. And there's a link in the chat to Unitemps and as a student employment hub, which I will have a look at offline.
So Richard, I put Phil's question in Q&A.
Oh, right, let me find Q&A. Phil, we work closely with unis at the undergraduate level and recruit well. How do the panel think that we should be doing more to take on PhDs, RA, senior researchers into industry as leaders, particularly in emerging fields, and to help industry take up new technologies and mechanisms? And is there examples of who does that well? I'll start with perhaps industry on that. How do you feel about bringing more researchers into your organizations and taking them on as research leaders and things like that? Do you feel there's enough interchange at senior levels between academia and industry?
Tough one, huh? I can start, Alexander, so you have a little bit more time to think. I think, well, the idea is good, but if you come to a company and say, okay, we bring you a high-level person that helps you doing research that comes not from the industry, would also mean he doesn't know and understand our customers, because that he can possibly not learn in the university. He must be in the field to understand this. And we would need to pay him somehow, I guess. So it would be quite challenging to get that through in a budget approval round, unless the person comes from external and says, I have a great idea how I can make all your life better and easier and faster. Then of course we would always be open to something like that, as we want to stay agile as a company. But the base idea scratches me. Okay, how could we make that work? Did I understand it correct? I mean, that's my 5 cents to that, really, at the moment. Alex, maybe you had a little bit more time now. You had some good inputs before.
I don't think it makes it better to think about that too long, because as you said, the main purpose of a company is to earn money. So we can only invest in something that in the end turns into revenue and EBIT, and that means normally what we do, we are working application oriented, and any research needs to serve the field of the end application for the customer. What I could imagine is, especially for small companies, because the bigger companies like Volkswagen or BMW or so on, they can afford research. A small company, 50, 100 people, normally has to focus into turnover and products. And that would mean what I could imagine is that we find research laboratories together with the university, where we can place specific questions that can be answered from them. That would help, for example. One topic is big topic at the moment is, for example, solid state batteries, which is coming up, and a company like Torqeedo is not able to develop such a battery themselves. But if we have a partner, then we could, and that means looking into other topics like material research in artificial materials and so on. I could imagine that brings the industry a big step further, especially the small companies.
Okay, just sort of generally looking at that, there seems to be, and this is I've worked a lot with universities through MarRI-UK and in other roles in my R&D career. There seems to be a growing gap somewhere in here that needs addressing, that particularly seems around the SMEs. I think the big companies here in the UK are well hooked into universities, but maybe not so the SMEs, the smaller companies, the medium-sized companies. Is there something that we could take positive action on to help create those links between academia and SMEs in a better way? It's a deliberately open question, I'm afraid.
Possibly some comment based on my experience. Indeed, yeah, I would agree that big companies have their own ways and they collaborate, and we have several examples, especially industry-sponsored centers. For example, Maritime Safety Research Center and Ship Sustainability Research Center at our department were sponsored from industry. Now, for SMEs, I believe in the UK, the role of knowledge transfer partnerships projects were not so well embraced by SMEs. So I think the UK possibly, and also in Scotland, Scottish Enterprise Funds and other funders provide some even small funds, larger funds, so provide several tools so industry engage further with academia. Sometimes, for example, for MarRI-UK, possibly to promote funding calls, or I don't know if brokerage events would help on that, but certainly some initiatives to so SMEs or especially small companies understand the capacity that is available in the UK universities would be helpful.
Yeah, I think the challenge the SMEs have got is the overhead of bidding for funds like that. You know, it costs money. Big companies are very good at it and have teams dedicated to it. Maybe the SMEs haven't, and therefore the sort of funding that comes out may not be aligned to areas of research that they'd be interested in. And it's a question of how do you build that picture of what smaller companies actually need to in terms of research, and build that into these calls in a different way. I don't know. I'm not an expert, for example, on funding calls.
Yeah, for example, what Marco and Alexander mentioned, that if they have a particular problem, getting in contact with the universities and find teams that can address the problem is the first step. Second step is that this can be lead to some sort of funding, but certainly academics, including us, we have the experience to provide advice which funding scheme can be exploited, or which funding scheme is more appropriate for each particular case. And this is a way to move on. Most likely, or my feeling is that SMEs are not so familiar with the work or with capabilities of different universities.
Okay, Marco, you wanted to say something, yeah?
Yeah, and that is maybe, and you're right, Richard. That's maybe where we have a gap here. So it should not be only the big companies that have the researchers to approach the universities. It should because you're going to miss a lot of opportunity as a university if you left out all the smaller companies. I would like to stress one thing. If we have a problem in a company of the size of EP Technologies or Tokido or similar, then we have no time to contact the university. Then we need to solve it instant. But what we would like to have is what Alexander said before, is like, okay, we have a dream. We would like to make research in this, but we do not have full capacity for that, and we don't have a clear business case about it. So now it could be great. Maybe it's, autonomous self-driving in some sort that we are looking for. But we do not have a clear business case for it. And there it would be good to have contact persons or platforms where it could be very easy for medium and smaller size companies to write it out in the university and say, hey, we have a project here. Do you have students that are interested in this? Is this something you guys can push forward? That could probably be very good. Maybe that even exists, but as you can feel, I don't know. So here we go already. If that could be made easier accessible, I think that could be very good for all of us. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. Rose, you want to just come in?
I was just going to say, as Mac has pointed out, the KTP is an excellent way for SMEs to engage with universities. And I know Newcastle does, and I think most universities probably have a dedicated sort of business engagement team who will develop the proposal with the company, so that the actual overhead for the company is minimal in terms of developing that proposal. The researcher is then employed by the university, so the company doesn't have to do the recruitment side of it, and they get significant financial support to have a person who is a researcher based in the company. And the academics go out to the company weekly or fortnightly to engage with both the researcher and the company. And it is an excellent funding scheme for developing that connection.
Okay, thanks for that. I've had a question in. It's to all of you. There are a number of students on the webinar today. What recommendations, suggestions do you have for them in terms of for the future of job hunting before they move into the job market? Basically, how can graduates be building up to a career and looking for jobs, given all the changes that we're seeing around us at the moment?
Can I start? Oh, sorry, Rose, please.
No, go on, Marcus.
Yeah, again, I would like to give an example because, at least in the University of Strasbourg, in our department actually organize career fairs, and we have one career fair per year, where companies have stands and try to, first of all, inform the students on potential recruitment pathways, and also for the students get familiar with the companies and also the recruitment procedure and the requirements. So, which means that companies participating in career fairs is certainly positive for getting or transferring information to the students. We are doing this as well now. Further initiatives from our side, whenever there is an open position or summer position internship, if this can be communicated to all our students, so have the network to do that. There are ways. I'm not saying that we are doing everything perfect, but MarRI-UK can play a role as well, because MarRI-UK connects a university with the industry. Possibly can take a more active role in this respect.
Yeah, I'm going to play a bit loose here. My wife used to be the director of student services at a university in the southwest and ran the careers department there. And they used to actually have people who would go out to industry looking for placements and being much more proactive about finding industrial placements across the board, be it everything from engineering through law and everything else. Is that something we should be doing more of? Is actually building these recruitment links in a more proactive fashion from universities to industry?
Yeah, I mean, our students are able to do a one-year placement, and that is administered through our careers service. So they vet the placement, and students do effectively a module in terms of the assessment of their time in the placement and what they've learned from it. But for the students looking for recruitment, as with Strathclyde, we have an annual careers fair, which is marine specific, where companies come in and they're looking to recruit for careers, but also placements and internships. And I would certainly encourage students who are sort of currently midway through their program to do, and to try to engage with internships, job shadowing, placement years, whatever, just to build their CV and also to build their experience, so that they can see what sort of jobs are out there, what sort of companies they do or possibly don't want to work with. You learn both ways by doing a 2-year a 2-month internship. You might see that this is a great company, but it's not where I see myself going, sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay, I'm very conscious that we're down to the last couple of minutes. If anybody's got a burning question they haven't asked yet, now's your chance. Otherwise, I will try and sort of close out, summarize what we've spoken about, and call this to an end. So nothing's come up. So I think a couple of points I take from this is the development of both specialists and multidisciplinary engineers and scientists, the people that the industry guys need that can integrate systems, that can work together in teams or work individually, or particularly off-site. And I think probably those of us in it who have been in industry have worked off-site by ourselves more than once in our career. And it's something that I think is quite important. We do also need to think about soft skills moving forward and actually making sure that not just the technical skills, but the softer skills of team working and relationships and customer understanding are included in this. I think we could have a very long debate about placements and internships and how to make that work. It's obviously very different according to the size of the companies, and how we can engage at that level. I could give you a war story about placements, but I won't, because it's quite an interesting experience for me in my early days as a real engineer. Looking at other countries, there clearly are things we can pick up from other countries. The example of Denmark, where they do 10 hours per week in a company and get paid for it, is an interesting idea. I think some sort of weekly contact would enable, again, it's just a form of job interview, if I'm honest, but it's probably going to work there. The use of synthetic environments came up, and how we can use those to help train people, particularly there. The specific needs around systems design, integration, real-time software are skill areas that I would suggest are common to not just the maritime industry, but most industries. We mentioned automotive and the truck industry. We've mentioned aerospace industry and what they're doing. And I guess if I had to leave you with a final sort of view of my own is that as a maritime sector, we are facing challenges because all industries want the same skills. So we have to think about how we can make this an attractive industry to entice people to both join it and stay in it and retain it. And I'm very conscious that back in the last century, actually in the 1990s, McKinsey's used a phrase called a war for talent. And I think that's something we need to be aware of as a maritime sector, that we are competing hard. We need to make it an attractive and vibrant industry that will attract the people with the skills we need. And I'll just leave you with a quote, because I always like a quote. It was Darwin that said, "It's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It's the one that is most adaptable to change." And I think this adaptability in the light of the speed of emerging technologies, rapid change, and actual social and geopolitical change as well, is something that we all need to be looking at. And that leads us to the challenges: how do we create more adaptable engineers and scientists coming out of the academic system, and how can industry make better use of those sorts of people? So unless anybody's got any last points from the panel, we've actually hit the time dead on. I think I'll take credit for that. And I'll leave you with it. So any last points to be raised from the panel? No? Okay, in that case, thank you all for the panelists. Thank you to MarRI-UK and IEMA for arranging this. Thank you to all the people that have been attending. And hopefully you'll see the recording on the MarRI-UK website. And I'm sure Wenjuan will be doing magic with LinkedIn and other things to get this to more people than we're able to attend. So thank you again. Special thanks to Wenjuan, who's done all the hard work behind this, and I'll look forward to the next event. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.